Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, CEO of Boardroom Resources, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show. We're going to be talking about, do certain companies need a security committee? And joining me to have this discussion is my guest, Cathy Allen, who's a board member with Synovus Financial Corp and El Paso Electric, and also serves as chairman and CEO of the Santa Fe Group. Cathy, welcome.
Thank you.
So you are listed as the chair of the security committee at El Paso Electric. Now, I believe I know what the security committee is, but it's a title that you don't see all that often. So could you explain to our viewers exactly what the role of the security committee is at El Paso?
I will. El Paso Electric, as you know, is on the border with Mexico. We also serve Holloman Air Force Base and Fort Bliss, and we also are part owner of Palo Verde, which is a nuclear facility. So cyber and physical security are of critical importance, especially as a critical infrastructure. We set up the security committee about a year ago. It has oversight for the board. There actually is the CEO, the president, 3 board members, myself, and senior management sit on the committee. We have oversight and understanding for the policies and procedures and systems around both physical and cybersecurity. We also pay attention to our critical assets and the protection of those assets. And then we're also concerned about all of our data systems and the protection of those data systems.
I would imagine that anything power related, even water related, all those are probably Homeland Security, national security issues, and subsequently security committee probably makes a lot more sense in an organization like that than it would, say, manufacturing or service.
You could say that, and I think certainly we're seeing a trend of other utilities or critical infrastructures adding security committees. I think you may see financial services companies or which are critical infrastructures start to separate out cyber and physical security from the other risks that they have. We certainly are seeing a trend of risk committees, not only in financial institutions, but manufacturing and some other places. And as people understand more about the threats that cybersecurity brings, whether it's infrastructure threats, data threats, intellectual property threats, I think you will see more emphasis on this.
Let's jump now to another question that I have for you. You would be considered, if there was such a thing, like there is financial experts, you would be considered an IT expert, okay, on the board, which a lot of boards are searching for, okay? Now, by being anointed with that title, okay, you also have the responsibility, typically on the board, you're not going to have too many people like yourself who understand the IT and the cyber business. So that means that those board members are going to be looking to you for guidance of asking the right questions and whatever. That's an added responsibility, one that I know you accept knowing you. But more importantly, how do you get comfort as the expert that you have the processes in place, and maybe most importantly, that you have the right people in place?
Right. People, processes, policies, and procedures are critical when you're looking at whether either cyber or physical security. As you said, many boards are starting to look for digital directors that understand cyber, understand risk management, understand technology, maybe understand emerging technologies like big data or mobile or other technologies that may impact the business. One way that I keep comfortable is, first of all, we have set up, and I helped to set up, the risk committee at Synovus and the security committee at El Paso. That means at least 3 other board members are coming up to speed with the issues that are facing us that are risk management issues. I also have a company, the Santa Fe Group, that manages third-party risk certification benchmarking, so that keeps me in the flow with about 200 large corporations that are members of that. I read a lot. I attend RSA Security. I go to both technology education and board education events. I have my fellow board members. I encourage them to attend educational events and to read. And usually once a month, I will send out 2 or 3 studies that are on cybersecurity or risk management or emerging technologies. I have brought in outside speakers, and probably most importantly, going back to the people and processes, in both boards, we brought out an outside third party to come in and review the policies and procedures that we have in place, just as a second opinion, and that reports directly to the board. Another trend that's happening, at least in financial services, is the board spends time with the CISO and CIO without other senior management or the CEO there. So those are some of the ways that you start to get comfortable that you are understanding the issues.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that even someone at your level of expertise in this finds the value in a third party coming in, not only to evaluate staff, but also to evaluate the processes that are going on. I'm real advocate of that in areas like this, that it's so important to have that right person with his hands on the wheel. And in this case, it's interesting to hear.
It's not even the persons, but are we allocating the right resources? And that's one of the reasons, for instance, to even meet with the CISO to be sure that they feel they have the resources they need to stay current with the policies and the procedures they can put in place, or the technologies around cybersecurity. This is an ever-changing market. We all have to stay as up to speed as we possibly can.
So in a recent study I saw where the investors actually were more concerned about the board's preparation when a breach occurs than they were about the preventive, maybe because they said, no matter what you do, the skill sets and the state-sponsored, hacking groups are going to eventually sort of penetrate companies. But do you, in your organizations, do you have a sort of crisis plan in place for what happens? And talk a little bit about why that's so important.
Well, first to go back, you have to do both. You have to pay attention to the preventative and the technologies and policies in place, but you do have to have a crisis management plan because, again, given the types of bad guys that are out there, it is not if, it's a when kind of situation. So in both of my committees, the risk committee and in the security committee, we have the crisis management plan reviewed. We've done tabletop exercises around it that include the board and when the board might be involved. We have it for both physical or cyber events, and we have it for if there is a catastrophe that might happen. All firms have business continuity plans, but now the communications of it has become critically important. And what do you do in the aftermath of some kind of a disaster?
So Cathy, we have about a minute and a half left, and I know you serve on the NomGov committees of both of the companies that you serve on the board. So I want to ask you about the ever important board evaluations. So tell me your views and how your 2 companies handle this process of evaluating directors' contribution.
Well, first of all, it's the NomGov committee that's responsible for looking at this. And in both of my organizations, we have robust evaluations. In some cases, self-evaluation and committee evaluation, and then board evaluation. In another, where we brought out a outside third party to come in and to interview with board members and do a 360 for board members. Both have been extremely helpful in helping us to refresh the board, to not only make sure that if a board member needs some help in one area, either a content area or a behavior area, that there is feedback, but also to help us look at the matrices that we have for the gaps that we have in knowledge. And so most boards, again, are setting up matrices that will have the skill sets that are needed, and there are many new skill sets like cybersecurity or communications or public policy, and making sure that you have board members that fit into those slots. And that comes through the evaluation process. So I'm a big believer in it, but as are both of my companies.
Well, it certainly is a important factor for investors to know that there is some kind of internal process going on. But Cathy, I really want to thank you for taking the time to join us on the show today. We appreciate you making the effort. And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week to take a look at another critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors, Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.